How are we doing, people? So many stories. Hey, I don't know where I will stop. So many stories, people. Now, how are we doing? Today is Tuesday. Tuesday week. Same old. I told you these stories are going to continue indefinitely. And and we're enjoying ourselves. Even me, somebody told me I resemble my dad. Carbon copy. Actually, that person was very, very true. I resembled my dad. Hey, and growing up, everybody told me the same thing. Wafanana tata wo, msika wa chanda, sijui the hair of chanda, blah blah. And I used to hate being called umska. Umska means you're the one who's the hair to be. Yes, I was enthroned on as the hair. You remember 1990 when my dad passed away? It was a very, very sad day, I remember. After the reading of the will, and after reading the 35 expose my dad had written, and they had hidden it in the ceiling, H-Tagobwa. You know, when he discharges himself from hospital, Mengo, Dr. Sir Albert Cook Hospital. Waliwo sente za tata wange zili ku ddwaliro eryo. Let me repeat. When my dad got ill, he didn't really know what was going on. Dr. Sally Mariandina Clinic. There was another doctor at Cardiff Clinic. But Dr. Baliband, you know, his friends, they came together. And they really had to battle what was going on. That's how he ends up in Mengo, because he went to Mengo Senior School. So Mengo Albert Cook Hospital is just within the same perimeter area. So when he checks into the hospital, things are just getting worse. That was 1989 Tuve Chevando. So those people always ask me, why did you leave your nice house in Chevando and go to Upper Moanda Road, which was still being built? My dad was getting ill. He had lost so much weight. I remember when we came back for holidays, he was so skinny, but he still had a little bit of strength. Before he was bedridden, he was bedbound. By 1990, ngenda okudda for my first term holidays, nga batugamba nti daddy ali Kitagobwa gy'abadde. Era I remember Muzeeyi Musisi is the one who drove him back, brought him to Moanda Road. It was during the holidays to see us. School holidays, you know what I mean? School holidays. When you break off from boarding school. I was in senior 2. Senior 3 years, first term. Yeah, because 88, senior 1, 89, senior 2, 1990, senior 3. Are you with me, people? Let's get slowly here. Akati, he was so skinny. I remember he was lifted out of the car, the pickup. Did you get pickup? Yamze Musisi, UPS, UPM something, 19999, something like that, the number plate. They carried my dad out of the car. Kakati, it was confusing. He didn't want to go to hospital now. I think he had had enough. Kakati olwo bagenda kwata sente, private wing. Back in the day, I don't think the hospital had a wing for the VVIP patients. So they gave some money to the hospital. It must have been a lot of money. And then they set up that unit in the hospital. And then he was taken in. By then, we had gone back to school. But then he would later discharge himself. He just couldn't take it anymore. It was a shock. Anyway, that's just a brief, but I'll give you the further more. Those who want to know always want to know more. They want to know the details and how things were going and all that. So by then, his business empire is crumbling. It was crumbling. He sells the shares in Lake Victoria Bottling Company. He sells the shares in Lake Victoria Hotel. Everything begins to crumble. So if you were to ask me the downfall, no, it wasn't like, it was, the situation was calling for so much. So that ends his shareholdings, because by then we had the regional distribution depot of Pepsi Cola, and he was setting up another factory, Crown Cox, to supply into the logistics chain of Lake Victoria Bottling. I'm talking about Pepsi Cola. We had trucks distributing Pepsi Cola around Kampala when he set up the regional depot to distribute. I think that was eastern section of Kampala. Are you with me, people? This is the other side of the business. Because remember, Zinalaba General Merchandise had the coffee section. That is the connection with with Uncle Rogers Dungu. Uncle Rogers Dungu guy. As a trailer, he was in logistics and transport, supply chain, coffee, together with the coffee marketing board, which was now pretty much on its last leg. It had been knocked down on its feet, because remember in 1983, when Oito Joke passed away. Oito Joke, the Major General, whatever, Lieutenant Oito Joke, the helicopter crash and all that. He had been the chairman. And by then, Mr. Rogers Mukasa, Uncle Rogers Mukasa, had left Coffee Marketing Board, and he was in the Development Corporation. I think at some point he did some work with Bank of Uganda. He was an economist. Although my dad had gone into business. We've gone into business. I'm going to tell you about the farm. Kamuli Mixed Model Farm. And it was in Kamuli, Kakiri, Kapeka, Masulita, square miles of land. We had a farm. I remember the farm manager was called Mr. Kalimunda. Where is Mr. Kalimunda, the farm manager of our farm? Very huge. So that farm had been ravaged by the war during the Civil War from 81 to 86. Okay, to 85. Because at some point, there was an encampment of gorillas of Museveni. Museveni supporting Museveni. He was a very big supporter financially. We were billionaire elites. That is the Luwero Triangle. Yes. And I've told you this bluntly. Me as a child, I remember we used to go to the farm. There was an encampment of gorillas who had set camp in there. Maybe Faranya ebimu bye mulaba Museveni ng'ali n'abaana bakadde okubeera ebimu byali ku faamu yaffe. Mubuuze Museveni ajja babuulira Masuulita Kapeeka nawaka moto nawaka tulipiga Kapeeka waka moto bakuba maini land mine bagitega mu luguudo luyita mu faamu yaffe ne lukubalandwa mu banga bu awafiirawo emirambo gy'abanyanya. I remember we went to the farm. Mutemulabye ebintu twalaba just during the 84 85 kati ye farm yaffe Kamuli mixed model farm, which we later my mom sold. When my dad passed away, the farm was still there, but it was being revamped or what was it called? Uganda Cooperative Bank, and there was something they set up, the Luwero Triangle Fund. Nebatekawo sente ziyambe all those farms that had been ravaged. Byalimu Dr. Samson Kiseka yajja ku farm yaffe n'agiraba. Nzuka baatuwa tractor, baatuwa ebintu bingi nnyo ebyali. There was a very big loan attached to it, they used to be called the long service loans, to compensate over to, but my dad didn't need that money. Yayagala kuzaawo bintu bye, kiraba. But eventually we sold the farm to Mr. Amos Nzei. He was a very good friend of our family. I would love to see him one day. Amos Nzei, one of the directors now of Pepsi Cola, Jamaica Crown Beverages, Yali Lake Victoria Bottling, in the 80s. They were government subsidiary, whatever they were calling them. Yeah. Hakati, mbanyumiza 80s. 1999, this is all about my dad. Redacted chapters. Ebyali mu storage nabawa my dad's life story. In 1984, there was a massacre. Hey, Namugongo. Mulaba Namugongo eje mugenda okulamaga every the 3rd of June. Hey, you people you haven't seen. Whatever was going on in Uganda at that time, God forbid, it was what they call scorched earth. Olungaba katta Oito Jog passed away in December the 3rd, 1983. The war was still going on. In fact, it intensified. Museveni yakuba emundu ne bazingako Kampala ne bamusiba northwest sijui whatever Katonga byani byonna njaba story you kansanga nogo area half London Kayira ali eno idwani bani wonna bankwanga bani bonna full scale naye alabika oboti yaleta bamasinare abakola ekintu ekyo. I am still lost for words. Batawantu. In fact, I should think they should commemorate that day or put up something, a monument. Kubanga twagendayo kunoonya abantu after the massacre. Kubanga bayokya, bakuma omuliro, baboominga, everything. That was Obote. Yes, my brother. How are you? Good. And that's 1984. You don't know these things. I don't think there's an account of it that is officially written about, but 1984. What I'm trying to say is most likely bano baali bamasinale bebaleeta to really pound kyebayita shock doctrine. Kampala, Uganda yasanyalala. But by 85 the army mutinied. Tito Okero overthrows Obote, the army. But the army had been divided on tribal lines, the Langis and the Acholis. Chenabagamba until 1985, July the 25th, when they overthrew Obote. Twali mu class ku Buganda Road. I remember vividly the stampede and the chaos. Jeeps, army jeeps, all the Mercedes Benzes were coming to collect the kids. It's all right, buddy. Yeah. Thank you. All right then. But ministers whose children, Benz zajjiranga ku speed in out, take in out. Bonna abaana bemdugerako baali ba ogwal okongo baani. Mukimanyi nasoma n'abaana ba God basasiri ogwal abalongo, the twins. They were my desk mates in 85. Philip ne Andrew. Cecily Ogwa, rest in peace. Narulungi wa Uganda in 1969, that beauty pageant which was held the year there was the UPC conference, the year President Obote's shot assassinated attempt, and that is the year also my dad finishes his studies. 1969. It's a very, very important year in the history of Uganda. And my dad was a youth winger. But now time where UPC youth wingers bali ku conference Lugogo. Ne Museveni yaliyo. President Joe Museveni yaliyo. Temumanyi bintu bino. I'm giving you history. Temubimanyi kakati tuli mu 85. Batata baffe, our dads, the billionaire elites, were shocked. Olutalo olujjako Obote, it paved the way for Museveni. Olwo lulinako story mpanvu. Dr. Martin Alika, I'll give you Jabba Wamanya. How could it go so wrong within UPC UPC Uganda People's Congress twainanga n'olunaku lulamba mu wiki ne tukumba. We used to march UPC oye UPC egumi bannange biwanvu mwe temulabye ebi. You haven't seen. Temulabye political entrenchment tekitegeeza. You remember those UPC songs? There used to be a national day. A national day every year celebrating the return of Obote, Ebushenyi. That is what we can talk about my dad. My dad was not in politics. Politics, for some reason, that was his decision. But Moses Chigongo, Bajambe Wafe, Al-Hajj Moses Chigongo, the first chairman of National Resistance Council, 86, I remember very well, 85. Haji Musa Chigongo, mukyala we Oliver, yali mukwano gwa mama wange nnyo. I'm going to give you a list of all my mom's friends. Abo be bakyala abalungi abaali mu Kampala, bannalulungi, very, very beautiful women, bavuga zi Benz. Auntie Maria Nalongo, that is the wife of Auntie Maria, the wife of Uncle Patrick, waliwo Uncle Chwanuka, Mbagambiani, Mchala Oliver, n'abala 80s. Hey, you people you haven't seen. Nga describing it. Anyway, I got him 89, 90. My dad is sick. They have built an extended VIP. Eventually, it becomes relentless, and he discharges himself from hospital, my dad, and decides to return back home. And then he would go to Chitagobwa. Then from Chitagobwa, he would be brought back up Amanda Road. The house was still being built. Nabagamba and it was their dream house, both of them, my mom and my dad. And that's where it is, the last days of his life. I would say like a month or two. Because I remember that holiday, 1990, July, August, September, we went back to school. I was back in Mwiri. And then September the 20th, he passed away. I was in class. I remember that day, I was sat with Julius Kayonga, Obi-Wange, Brewer House. He's now in Rwanda. He's doing well. He's a lawyer. In fact, I'm one day I'll visit him. The Kayongas, in fact, the Kayonga's mom, Beba Kazabari, part of the who is who. Their dad, Mr. Kayonga, was in BAT, British American Tobacco, wali company Ange. But he was a senior top manager. Gabela Kitante Road. Justice, Julius, Jackson, the elder one, know that. They are part of our family, the Kayongas. Yeah. Naina ku Buganda Road, na agende St. Leo's, Kiegombe, Alina J. Mwili. We caught up in senior through senior 4. We finished together all levels. I have him in my pictures, Julius Kayonga. Yeah. When we were together in Brewer House, many people didn't know that I knew Julius before. Twabelanga fena Kampala Club, fena twabe swimming, who is whose children. Kakati, in 1990. The telex came. Back then, communication was via telex. To the school, they had sent it that they should inform me that my dad had passed away. And then, when they called me to the office, when they gave me that information, I returned back to the class. I remember very well. And then I told Julius that my dad has passed away. I left class and I ran straight to Brewer House, the dormitory. Came back to the upper school, went to the bursar. The bursar was a very good friend of mine, the school bursar, and he knew my dad. Kati, I had some pocket money. I used to save my money. They used to be safe in his office. Puts the money in the envelope at the beginning of the term and keeps it. Kakati, I told him that I'm going home. I want my money. And he didn't hesitate. And he gave me my money. I ran through the Brewer Salvo down to Wairaka. I remember even it was a Tata bus I boarded from Wairaka College. There used to be a bus stop outside Wairaka on the main road, the Bugembe Highway. The bus took me straight to Jinja bus station. Nalinya na UTC. UTC nga zikyaliyo. UTC nendeeta paka Kampala. By 7 o'clock in the evening, ndi waka. Hey, omwana wunako atuusa aliwana tebadde bagenze muno na they had come to collect me in Mwiri. And now me, I'm already back home in Kampala. It shook me a lot coming back home. And a lot of people were at our house. The whole of Kampala was who is who. Abantu besidanga muna kulaba. Shockwaves were everywhere. Shockwaves. Hey, Omugagga Chanda. Remember, we are just 4 years into Museveni's government. Things are just beginning to warm up. You still have the other shock of the war, the guerrilla war, whatever. And the key players they keep people batandika. In fact, there was a streak of deaths eventually there. Kafumbe Mukasa nafa, bani bonna, people had, what was going on? Naye kakati ze kyentegeera kye baayogeranga, okay, I can say it because people used to say it. Waaliwo lisiti eyali etambula mu 85. Lisiti eyo bajjako Obote yaliko the who is who, but technocrats abaali mu lutalo lwa Museveni, abagagga abaaluteekanga mu ssente, because remember Museveni teyali yekka, yalina financiers abaganda abalina ssente, bannayuganda, different people bangi. I can give you names abaali bateeka ssente, ate abasinga bonna kakati. During that state of emergency from July to January, kyekidde ekyayoola abantu nga babatwala Kololo Summit View nga bakusibira eyo, oba nga babasibira eyo nti babakubanga empiso. That is not something I can substantiate, but if it was katwa, kaali katwa kennyini. Kubanga obulwadde obwalumanga abantu, muve ku bino ebyogamba nti siriimu, teyali siriimu, because it just is a targeted group of people were eliminated. Sijja kukitekako anything, but they didn't know what was going on, they didn't know what was happening. But 1985, so the enemy within, the elimination. Museveni yali akyalona lutalo lwe, yana abaali bamusupporting yali abamanyi, ye yajja mu 86, ate si yajjako Obote. Kati either abaakuba Obote bayagala balowooza nti bano abagagga babenefiting mu system y'Obote, which was true. It was true because Obote had rewarded so many people. Obote yarewardinga abantu bayitirivu nnyo, n'abawa ebitongole, n'abawa biparastato, n'abawa zi contracts, everything to appease them, to neutralize the war against him. That's my suspicion. Ye Kampala gye mutaalabanga. Kyalinga kiwanvu nnyo. Certain class of people. That's my brother. Nga be batambulayo mu kintu, the looters. Mumanyi ba looters. If you know Uganda, you should know the looters. The lutamaguzis. Baba Aida Luther ne Brian Luther. Bambi Brian Luther passed away. Yali Kampala parents. Brian nga mukwano gwange Brian Luther. Baali bazanya mupiira mu kisaawe enkuba netandika okutonya. Then he took sick. He was playing out in Kampala parents. That's where my sisters were studying. Abasoma ne ba Natasha. Nga bwe nabagambye nti Cecilia Ogwal's children baali ba classmates bange mu P5. In fact, abo baagenda, they left. When the government changed, they left. They went to the US. Oba bakyali mu US simanyi. Ne Charlotte Kuteesa. Ne Chance Kuteesa. Abo balina ba deskmate bange ne bagamba. Nali class monitor default. I remember when they joined us, the Kenya. They came from Kenya. The Kutesa daughters. N'abaana abalala bemutamanyi nja bababuulira anti tunyumya mboozi. Naye mpoozi ya taata wange, the chapters are redacted in the story. Even to be bingi nnyo, there's so much to recount. So that is it. September the 20th. By the end of the week, I think 2-3 days later, my dad was buried. Then they had the last funeral rites or Rumbe. One thing that intrigued me is my dad did not get accorded a funeral service in the church, despite the fact he built 5 churches. Ne ku Mawanda Road wetwali St. John's Church yali agizimbye ni Reverend Kisembo batandika church eyo nga the founding everything was my dad behind the scenes. So this is nga bajja ne bamusabira ke bajjanga ne bamusabira awaka, they used to come and pray for my dad, and on the day he passed away, the church held a service at home, at our home. No, this blaze of church, no. And the same would happen to my mom in 1998. Auntie Nalongo, gwe nabagambi wa jet, Nalongo Dungu, ye bewasabira mama wange, ne church, Miracle Center. Hey, people, I should go and see Mr. Kayanja. I challenge you, Kirenio. It's a long time ago, people. So, Yembos Tegwayo. We shall continue, love. We shall continue.